The stars above the Imperial capital had never looked so peaceful. From the Emperor's palace window, they were nothing more than tiny lights in the dark sky. But far beyond those calm stars, a storm was about to break. A storm that would shake the entire Galactic Empire to its core. The first warning came from the outer defense stations. Multiple enemy signatures detected. The officer's voice cracked over the comms. Rebel fleet approaching. Size, enormous. Admiral Theros, the Empire's most trusted commander, stood inside the command center on the main defense station. Around him, hundreds of officers worked frantically, scanning, calculating, preparing weapons. Giant screens showed the rebel fleet closing in like a swarm of red dots across the system map. Theros did not panic. Why would he? The Empire had faced rebellions before. Each time, the rebels were crushed. Their ships turned to burning wreckage. Their leaders dragged in chains before the Emperor. "Let them come," Theros said coldly, his voice like steel. "This war will end tonight. Prepare the fleet." War drums seemed to echo through the void as Imperial ships spread across space, engines glowing, weapons locking on targets. But before the first missile launched, something strange appeared on the scanners. At first, it was only a flicker, a single contact on the edge of the map. No signature, no code, moving impossibly fast. "What is that?" one officer whispered, staring at the screen. No one answered. The flicker moved closer, and then the rebel ships began to die. It started with one massive cruiser at the front of the rebel fleet. Without warning, it split apart in a flash of blue-white light. The explosion blinded every sensor for miles. Then another ship, and another. Within seconds, the rebel fleet was collapsing. Ship after ship torn apart, as if some invisible giant had crushed them in its hand. "Who's firing?" Admiral Theros demanded. His own fleet had not launched a single shot yet. "Not us, sir," came the shaking reply. "And not the rebels either. Something else is out there." On the screens, a shape moved through the darkness. It was not big, not compared to the massive Imperial warships, but it was fast. Too fast. Weapons struck before scanners could even track them. Each blast was precise, cutting ships apart like paper. The rebel fleet tried to fight back. Missiles launched, cannons fired, but nothing hit the shadow in the dark. It moved like it already knew every attack before it came. "Scan it!" Theros roared. The technicians tried. Systems hummed. Lights flashed. Data poured in. And then, nothing. "No match," the lead technician whispered. "It's not in our records, Admiral. This ship does not exist." The words fell over the command center like ice water. Not in the records. That was impossible. The Galactic Empire had records of every ship, every weapon, every battle in the last 10,000 years. Nothing in the galaxy was unknown to them. Nothing. But this ship, this nightmare in the dark, was not in any archive. On the palace world, the Emperor himself watched the battle feed. His golden eyes narrowed as he saw the rebel fleet, once so powerful, reduced to drifting debris in minutes. "Whose flag does it fly?" the Emperor demanded. "None, Majesty," his advisor replied quietly. "No records, no identification, no signal. It fights like nothing we've ever seen." The Emperor's jaw tightened. He could see the wreckage. He could see the burning remains of hundreds of ships. But he could not see the attacker clearly. The shadow moved once more, and then vanished. Just like that. One moment it was there, the next gone. As if space itself had swallowed it whole. Across the Empire, panic began to spread. Whispers filled the council halls. Was it a secret weapon? A new rebel ally? Something from outside the galaxy? But then one voice, old, trembling, spoke what no one wanted to believe. What if it was human? The room froze. Humans. That small, stubborn species the Empire had always ignored. They had no great fleets, no massive empire, just scattered colonies and tiny warships barely worth noticing. And yet, the attack had come from the direction of human space. Admiral Theros replayed the battle again and again. He slowed the footage. He enhanced the frames. And for a split second he saw it, just enough to make his blood run cold. A single ship, black as the void, shaped like a spear aimed at the heart of the galaxy. And written faintly on its side, before the image vanished into static, was a single word in human script. A name. The Rose stared at it for a long time. If humans had weapons like this, the Empire might be facing a power it could not control. And for the first time in centuries, Admiral the Rose felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. The wreckage of the rebel fleet still floated in cold space like broken bones scattered after a storm. Pieces of metal turned slowly in the darkness. Fires burned on shattered hulls where oxygen still leaked. The battle had ended hours ago, but the fear it created was only beginning. On Imperial Station Veranis, soldiers whispered in the hallways. No one spoke loudly. It was as if the silence itself carried weight. They had all seen the same thing. A single unknown ship destroying hundreds of warships in minutes, and then disappearing like smoke in the wind. Admiral the Rose had not left the command center since the attack. He stood before the massive holographic display showing the wreckage, his jaw tight, eyes fixed. Around him, officers worked nervously, scanning every signal, searching every corner of space. Still nothing? The Rose asked at last. Nothing, sir, the lead technician replied. His voice was dry, his face pale. No signal, no energy trail. It's like it was never there. Theras's eyes narrowed. Ships did not just appear and vanish. Not in real space. Not like this. Unless, the thought made him uneasy. Across the Empire, rumors spread faster than fire in a dry forest. Traders spoke in secret corners of starports. Spies carried half-heard words across borders. Priests in forgotten temples whispered about old legends. Legends of a power that had once moved across the stars long before the Empire rose. A power so dangerous that even the oldest records avoided its name. No one believed the stories anymore. Until now, the Emperor himself summoned the High Council. Holographic images of admirals, governors, and intelligence chiefs filled the Grand Chamber, each face tense. "Explain it to me," the Emperor commanded, his voice cold as iron. "What weapon did this?" No one answered at first. Then Director Malvek, head of Imperial Intelligence, spoke carefully. "We have studied the recordings, Majesty. The technology does not match any known race. Not the rebels. Not the border kingdoms. Not even the outer rim tribes. It is unique." Unique. The Emperor's golden eyes hardened. "There is nothing unique in my galaxy. Find it. Bring me the name of its makers." But Malvek hesitated. "Majesty, there are whispers, old records, forgotten archives. Speak." "Stories from before the Empire's founding," Malvek said slowly. "They tell of a people who came from the edge of the galaxy. A people who fought the first star empires and vanished before we were born." "And you think this thing is theirs?" the Emperor asked. Malvek's throat went dry. "Some believe it might be worse. They believe this power belongs to the humans." The room erupted in disbelief. "Impossible," one admiral barked. "Humans are nothing. Scattered primitives. Traders, miners, mercenaries. They have no fleets, no empire, nothing like this." But Malvek held his ground. "Then explain the wreckage, Admiral. Explain how one ship destroyed 1,000. Explain why our archives have nothing on it." Silence fell again. In the shadows of the council chamber, fear began to grow like a living thing. On the border world of Draenos, a different kind of fear was rising. Captain Rin of the Imperial Scouts had been sent to investigate the battlefield. His small ship moved carefully through the drifting wreckage, scanning for clues. "Look at this," his pilot whispered, pointing at the screens. Rin leaned closer. The scans showed melted metal where weapons had struck. But this was no ordinary damage. The holes burned clean through armor meters thick, edges glowing with strange radiation the scanners couldn't even classify. "Energy output beyond our scale," the pilot said softly. "This shouldn't even be possible." Then they found something worse. A single piece of metal, larger than the rest, floating alone in the dark. Carved into its black surface were letters. Not alien runes. Not Imperial script. Human words. Rin stared at them. The name was short, sharp, written in a language most Imperials barely knew. The pilot swallowed hard. Sir, are we sure we want to report this? Rin's hands tightened on the console. We have no choice. When the report reached the High Council, the debate turned to panic. Humans? One governor said in disbelief. They don't have this kind of power. They can't. But Director Malvek leaned forward. Maybe that's what they want us to think. Maybe they've been hiding their strength for centuries. The Emperor's face turned to stone. If humans had weapons like this, the balance of the galaxy had already changed. Find them, he ordered, before they find us. But deep inside, even the Emperor felt it, the thing no one in the Empire wanted to admit. Whoever controlled this power had already found them. And if the rumors were true, the Empire might be facing a force far older and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The Imperial scout ship Vigilant moved slowly through the empty border sector. Every sensor was active, every weapon armed. Its crew spoke in low voices, as if afraid to wake something sleeping in the dark. Captain Rin stood at the bridge window, staring into space. Somewhere out there, he knew, was the thing that had destroyed the rebel fleet. The thing that had made the mighty Galactic Empire feel small for the first time in centuries. Energy traces ahead, the sensor officer reported. His voice shook slightly. Very faint. Could be debris or something else. Approach carefully, Rin ordered. The Vigilant moved closer. The wreckage of rebel ships still floated across the sector, twisted metal spinning slowly in the dark. But beyond that wreckage, a new shape appeared on the scanners. It was massive, black as the void itself, and completely silent. The crew froze as the image sharpened on the main screen. It was a ship, if ship was even the right word. Its surface was smooth and dark, broken only by faint blue lights glowing along its hull. No markings, no signals, no heat emissions. Just waited, like a predator watching its prey. By the stars, someone whispered. That thing, it's huge. Captain Rin felt his throat go dry. Even the Empire's dreadnoughts didn't look this dangerous. Try hailing it, he ordered. The comm officer's hands shook as he sent out signals in every known frequency. No response. Not even static. Then the ship moved. Not fast. Not threatening. Just turning like it had finally noticed them. Back us off, Rin said quickly. Slowly. But before the Vigilant could retreat, a deep voice filled the comm channel. Imperial vessel, it said, calm and steady. You are trespassing. The crew froze. It spoke perfect Imperial standard. This is Captain Rin of the Galactic Empire, Rin said carefully. Identify yourself. Silence followed. Then the voice returned. Your empire attacked human space. We ended it. Leave. Now. The words were simple, quiet, but there was something behind them. Something cold and certain, like a warning carved in stone. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. Humans. The rumors were true. Captain Rin's hands tightened on the console. You destroyed the rebel fleet? He asked slowly. Another pause. Then, they came with fire. We answered. Simple words, but they carried the weight of absolute confidence. The Vigilant scanners beeped suddenly. Multiple energy readings. Captain, the sensor officer said, his voice trembling. I'm picking up more ships. Big ones. They're everywhere. Rin stared at the display in disbelief. One by one, new signals appeared around them. Black shapes sliding out of the void, silent and vast, as if they had been waiting in the dark all along. 10, 20, 50. Enough to burn worlds. And none of them were in Imperial records. The human voice spoke again, still calm. You saw what one ship did. Do not test the rest. The crew of the Vigilant felt the meaning clearly. The Empire might have thousands of ships, but against this, it would not matter. Captain Rin swallowed hard. The Emperor will want answers, he said carefully. The voice almost sounded amused. Then tell him the answer is simple. Leave our borders, or share the rebels' fate. The channel went silent. For a long moment no one moved. Finally, Rin gave the order. Take us back to Imperial space. The Vigilant turned slowly, engines humming. Behind them, the black ships watched in silence, like wolves letting a trespasser leave their forest. Not attacking, not chasing, just waiting. When Captain Rin's report reached the High Council, the reaction was chaos. They spoke to you? The Emperor demanded, his golden eyes burning. Yes, Majesty, Rin said, standing stiffly before the holographic council. They called themselves humans. They warned us to stay away. Humans? One admiral snapped. They were insects last time we checked. Miners, traders, scavengers. Not anymore, Rin said quietly. He told them about the fleet hiding in the dark. The ships that dwarfed Imperial dreadnoughts. The calm, cold voice that promised destruction if crossed. Some council members refused to believe it. Others argued for war. But the Emperor said nothing for a long time. He just stared at the battle recordings, the wreckage, the black shapes waiting in the shadows. Finally, he spoke. Find out how long, he said softly. Majesty, Malvek, the intelligence chief, asked. The Emperor turned, his face like stone. How long have the humans been building this? Without us knowing. No one answered, because deep down everyone feared the same thing. Humans hadn't just appeared overnight. They had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The Imperial High Council had gathered in full force for the first time in decades. Admirals, governors, intelligence chiefs, and royal envoys filled the massive hall of black stone and golden banners. The Emperor himself sat on the throne, his golden eyes sharp, his face unreadable. Before them stood Captain Rin, the man who had spoken directly to the mysterious fleet on the border. They call themselves humans, Rin repeated, his voice steady. And they warned us clearly. Leave their borders or share the rebels' fate. The room erupted with voices. Impossible, shouted Grand Admiral Varys. The humans were nothing. Farmers, miners, wandering traders. They had no fleets, no armies. This must be an illusion, a trick. An illusion does not destroy 1,000 rebel warships in minutes, Rin replied calmly. Varys turned red with anger. Then we crush them. Send the first Imperial armada. Burn their worlds before they rise any further. The Emperor raised one hand, and the room fell silent. They destroyed the rebels with one ship, the Emperor said softly. And you would send them more targets? Even Varys fell quiet. 3 days later, the Empire sent a message to human space. The message was formal, diplomatic, filled with carefully chosen words demanding a meeting. The humans agreed. And that was how, for the first time in history, a human ship came to the heart of the Empire. It arrived without warning, dropping out of faster-than-light travel right above the Imperial capital. No escorts, no grand fleet, just one ship. But it was enough to terrify everyone who saw it. The Nemesis, that was its name, written in bold human script along its black hull. It was unlike any warship the Empire had ever seen. Long and sharp like a spear, armored in dark metal that seemed to swallow the light. Its engines glowed faint blue, silent and cold, as it slid into orbit above the capital world. Every Imperial weapon locked on it instantly. Planetary cannons, orbital defense platforms, entire fleets moved into position. But the Nemesis ignored them. It didn't even raise shields. It simply waited. In the Imperial palace, tension filled the air like smoke. The human envoy stepped into the throne room. A tall man in simple black armor. No golden cloak, no crown, no sign of fear. He bowed slightly before the Emperor. You fired on our borders, the man said calmly. His voice was deep, steady, carrying across the hall. The rebels ignored our warnings. They paid the price. We will not allow the same mistake twice. The Emperor studied him carefully. You speak boldly for someone standing alone in the heart of my empire. The man almost smiled. Alone? Is that what you think? He raised one hand slightly, and a small device on his wrist activated. Instantly, the palace screens lit up with images from orbit. The Nemesis was no longer alone. One by one, massive black shapes slid out of the darkness beyond the capital's moon. Warships, hundreds of them, appearing from stealth, their hulls glowing faint blue, weapons already powered but silent. Gasps filled the throne room. The Imperial generals stared in disbelief. How long were they there? One officer whispered. The answer was simple. Too long. The human envoy spoke again, his voice calm, almost gentle. One ship destroyed the rebel fleet because we chose to send one. Do you wish to see what happens when we send all of them? Admiral Varys slammed his fist on the table. You dare threaten the Empire? The human envoy looked at him, eyes cold as the void. No, he said softly. We promise. It was not a threat. It was a fact. On the palace screens, the human fleet moved with terrifying precision. Warships the size of cities slid into formation, their weapons humming with quiet power. Imperial targeting systems tried to lock on, but half the human ships didn't even appear on sensors properly. They're jamming us, one technician whispered, pale with fear. I can't even get a full count. It's like they're everywhere at once. The Emperor leaned back slowly, his golden eyes never leaving the screens. He had ruled for centuries. He had crushed rebellions, conquered worlds, broken fleets. But in that moment, even he felt it, the cold weight of reality settling in. The Empire had always believed it was the strongest power in the galaxy. It had been wrong. The human envoy spoke one last time before leaving. Stay out of our skies, he said quietly, and tell your fleets to go home. Next time, we won't warn you first. Then he turned and walked out of the palace, leaving the High Council in stunned silence. Above the capital, the human fleet waited for 1 hour, as if daring the Empire to make a mistake. No one did. And then, just as silently as they had arrived, the humans vanished back into the dark. But the fear they left behind stayed. Across the galaxy, whispers spread like wildfire. The humans had weapons beyond imagination, fleets hidden in shadows, technology no one understood. And for the first time in living memory, the Galactic Empire felt small. The High Council could not sleep. For 3 days after the humans left, the great halls of the Empire echoed with angry voices. Generals, admirals, and governors argued until their throats were dry. Some were afraid. Others were furious. But one thing united them all: pride. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. No one had ever dared to threaten them before. And now, a species once dismissed as weak traders and wandering colonists had humiliated them in front of the entire galaxy. It was unbearable. Grand Admiral Varys slammed his fist on the council table. We are the Empire, he roared. We cannot let this insult stand. If we back down now, every petty race in the galaxy will rise against us. The humans must be crushed now before their power spreads any further. Others nodded, their faces red with anger. The Emperor listened silently. His golden eyes betrayed no emotion. Finally, he spoke. How many ships do you need? Varys smiled coldly. All of them. 2 weeks later, the largest Imperial fleet in history left the capital. 2,000 warships. Dreadnoughts, carriers, missile destroyers, and entire planet-killer platforms. The sky above the Imperial shipyards glowed with the fire of engines as the armada formed, stretching across the horizon like a storm ready to consume everything in its path. The galaxy watched with bated breath. This was the fleet that had conquered 1,000 worlds. The fleet that had never lost a war. The fleet that would finally show the humans their place. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, Grand Admiral Varys stood tall, his uniform perfect, his eyes hard. Set course for human space, he commanded. Engines roared. The armada moved like a tidal wave across the stars. The first human planet came into view after 4 days of travel. It was small. Green forests, blue oceans, tiny cities shining on the surface. Pathetic, one Imperial officer muttered. Send a message, Varys ordered. "Tell them the Empire is here to bring peace by fire." The message went out. No reply came back. Varys smiled coldly. "Begin the attack." Imperial warships moved into formation. Massive cannons charged, glowing bright with deadly energy. Fire! Beams of plasma screamed through space toward the human cities below. And then, they vanished. Every shot, every missile, gone before reaching the surface. Varys froze. "What happened?" "Sir!" the sensor officer shouted. "Something's interfering with our weapons." I don't understand." Then the humans arrived. They came out of nowhere. One moment, the space around the Imperial fleet was empty. The next, it was filled with shadows. Black warships sliding silently out of the void. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Their hulls glowed faint blue. Their weapons hummed with energy far beyond Imperial science. But worst of all, the Imperial sensors couldn't even count them properly. Half the fleet didn't appear on radar at all. It was like fighting ghosts. A single message came through the comms, calm and cold. "Leave, or burn." Varys snarled. "All ships attack." Imperial warships opened fire. Cannons thundered. Missiles filled space like angry hornets. But the human ships moved too fast, too precise. Beams of energy cut through Imperial dreadnoughts like paper. Missiles exploded before they reached their targets, intercepted by weapons the Empire didn't even recognize. An entire Imperial carrier group vanished in a single blinding flash as a human warship fired a weapon no one had ever seen before, something that bent light itself before unleashing destruction. "Admiral!" an officer shouted. "We're losing ships too fast. Over 100 already gone. Keep firing!" Varys roared. But deep down, even he felt it. This wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. The humans fought with terrifying precision. Every Imperial move was predicted. Every counterattack was blocked before it began. It was as if the humans knew the Empire's tactics better than the Empire itself. One by one, the mighty Imperial warships died. The Eternal Dominion, pride of the fleet, shook violently as explosions ripped through its engines. "Shields failing!" someone screamed. On the main screen, a human dreadnought drifted closer. This black hull reflected no light. Its weapons glowed faintly, almost lazily, as if destroying the Imperial fleet required no effort at all. Varys stared at it, his face pale. For the first time in his life, he felt fear. Within 2 hours, the greatest fleet in Imperial history was gone. Of 2,000 warships, barely 100 limped back toward Imperial space. The rest were silent wrecks drifting in the dark. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. The Empire had struck with all its might, and failed miserably. The humans had not just won. They had humiliated the most powerful empire in galactic history, and everyone knew it. The news spread like fire across the galaxy. 2,000 Imperial warships, gone. The greatest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. The pride of the Empire, destroyed in less than 2 hours by a power no one had truly believed existed. At first, people thought it was a lie. Some claimed the humans had used tricks, illusions, fake recordings. But then the survivors returned. Only a few damaged ships crawling back into Imperial space, engines smoking, crews pale and broken. Their stories were all the same. "We never had a chance," one captain said, his voice shaking. "They were everywhere. We couldn't even see half their ships. It was like fighting shadows with sticks." The galaxy listened, and the galaxy trembled. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders called emergency meetings. If the humans could destroy the Empire's greatest fleet, what chance did anyone else have? The Corran Dominion sealed its borders overnight. The Valtari League ordered its fleets to retreat from disputed territories. Even the warlike Drogon clans, famous for never showing fear, began pulling ships back from human borders. No one wanted to be next. Inside the Imperial Palace, panic took a different shape. The High Council was in chaos. "This is impossible," Grand Admiral Varys shouted, slamming his fist on the table. His face was pale, his eyes wild. He had commanded the fleet. He had lost everything. They cheated. They used weapons forbidden by the Galactic Accords. Accords. Director Malvek of Intelligence snapped. You think they care about our accords? They don't even recognize our rule. Voices rose in anger and fear. Some demanded a new fleet. Others argued for peace. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. The Empire had no weapons left to match the humans. The Emperor himself said little. He sat on his golden throne, his face carved from stone, his golden eyes watching as his empire shook apart like glass under a hammer. Finally, he spoke. "Find out," he said softly. "Find out what, Majesty?" Malvek asked. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "How long?" he said slowly. "Have the humans been hiding this power? How many fleets do they truly have? How many worlds? How many weapons?" No one answered, because no one knew. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, rumors spread faster than any official report. Traders spoke in dark corners of space stations. Soldiers whispered in barracks late at night. Miners on asteroid colonies told stories over cheap drinks. Stories of human warships the size of moons. Stories of fleets hidden in deep space. Entire armadas waiting in silence for the right moment to strike. Stories of planet-killer weapons that could erase entire worlds with one shot. No one knew which stories were true, but everyone believed them, because after what happened to the Imperial fleet, anything seemed possible. On the neutral world of Tarvos Prime, ambassadors from a dozen species gathered to discuss the human problem. "They will conquer us all," one Valtari envoy said, his voice trembling. "You saw what they did to the Empire. They have not attacked anyone else," a Koran diplomat replied carefully. "Perhaps they only want peace." "Peace?" the Drogan warlord growled. "Peace does not require fleets that can destroy 2,000 warships in hours." The council fell silent, because none of them knew the answer. In the border systems near human space, Imperial scouts reported terrifying sightings. A single human ship appearing over a mining world, then vanishing before Imperial reinforcements arrived. Massive fleets moving silently through deep space, ignoring all hails, all warnings. Entire Imperial outposts going dark, their crews found alive but shaken, refusing to speak about what they had seen. It was as if the humans were everywhere at once, watching, waiting, and then came the message. It appeared on every Imperial channel, every frequency, every screen from the palace to the smallest mining station. A human face appeared, calm, cold, without emotion. "Do not cross our borders again," the voice said. "Do not send fleets. Do not send spies. Do not test our strength." The face leaned closer. "Next time, there will be no warning." The message ended. Across the galaxy, fear became something greater. It became panic. Merchants changed trade routes overnight to avoid human space. Smugglers refused to carry Imperial weapons near human borders. Even criminal syndicates ordered their ships to stay far away. Entire sectors of space fell silent, as if the stars themselves held their breath. Inside the Imperial palace, the Emperor watched the message again and again. For the first time in 10,000 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. It was not anger, it was fear, because deep down he realized the truth. The humans were not rising. They had already risen, and no one had noticed until it was too late. The Imperial palace had never been this silent. No music played in the grand halls. No courtiers laughed in the golden gardens. Even the guards stood stiff and pale, as if the air itself carried a weight too heavy to breathe. Everyone knew why. The humans were coming. Not to attack. Not yet. But to speak one last time. And no one knew what would happen after. The sky above the Imperial capital darkened as a single human ship entered orbit. The Nemesis. The same ship that had destroyed the rebel fleet. The same ship that had humiliated the Empire's greatest armada. The same ship that carried a message the entire galaxy waited to hear. Imperial warships filled the skies around the capital, but none dared to fire. Everyone remembered what happened the last time someone did. Inside the throne room, the Emperor sat on his golden seat, surrounded by generals, admirals, and council members. His face was carved from stone, hiding the storm inside him. The doors opened. The human envoy walked in slowly, dressed in black armor that reflected no light. His face was calm, his steps silent, his eyes cold. He stopped before the Emperor. "You have one chance," the envoy said simply. His voice was quiet but carried across the entire hall. "One chance to survive." The council erupted in anger. "Survive!" Grand Admiral Varus roared, his pride burning even after losing the fleet. "We are the Empire. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. You dare!" The human turned his head slightly, and for a moment, only a moment, his eyes locked on Varus. The Admiral's words died in his throat, because in those eyes he saw no hate, no fear, only certainty, like a man staring at a storm he could not stop. The Emperor raised one hand. Silence fell again. "Speak," he said at last. His voice was calm, but everyone in the hall could hear the tension beneath it. The human envoy nodded once. "Leave our borders. Remove your fleets. Do not send your spies. Do not fire your weapons at us again." "And if we refuse?" the Emperor asked softly. The human stepped closer. "Then there will be no empire left to refuse." On the palace screens, the image changed. For the first time, the humans revealed what lay behind the darkness of their territory. Fleets, hundreds of them, no thousands. Armadas so vast they filled entire star systems. Black warships stretching across the void like an endless wall of metal and fire. Some were the size of moons. Others dwarfed the largest Imperial dreadnoughts ever built. And at the center, something bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. A single warship the size of a small planet, its surface bristling with weapons that glowed faint blue like dying stars. The humans called it the Leviathan. It had never fired a shot, because it had never needed to. Gasps filled the throne room. One Imperial general whispered, almost choking on his words. This is impossible. No one builds ships that big. No one, but someone had, and they had hidden it for centuries. The human envoy spoke again, his voice calm but final. "We did not want this war," he said, "but we will finish it if you force us to. Choose peace or choose extinction." The Emperor leaned back slowly. For 10,000 years, no one had spoken to him like this. No one had dared. Now a single human stood before him, offering peace like a man offers mercy to a defeated enemy. The Emperor's golden eyes burned. But deep inside, he knew the truth. This was not a negotiation. It was a warning. And if he ignored it, his empire would not survive the month. Finally, the Emperor rose from his throne. His voice was steady when he spoke. "Very well," he said. "The Empire will withdraw. We will not cross your borders again." The council erupted in disbelief, but the Emperor silenced them with one look, because he understood something they didn't. This was not surrender. This was survival. The human envoy nodded once. "Then live," he said simply, and he turned to leave. As the nemesis departed, the galaxy held its breath. Would the humans attack anyway? Would the Empire truly honor its promise? No one knew. But across the stars, one thing became clear. The age of the Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun, because the humans had given their final warning. And everyone knew what would happen if it was ignored.